Alrighty guys, welcome to the channel that brings you everything control related, and in this video I am bringing you a stream that was with a YouTuber called LessAlex. So if you could give him some love, that would be much appreciated. And in this video we talk about Azorius control and all different types of control decks and where they currently stand in the modern meta, and we also talk about the top 5 decks within the modern metagame. So if that's something that interests you, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this stream. And we also talk about 5 individual control cards that have been added to new control decks. So yeah, it's been a good stream. I really appreciate Alex joining this stream, and if this is something that people enjoy, I will look to do this in the future. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I'll see you in future videos. See you in a bit. You everything control related, and today we have a guest on the channel, and he is called Alex. He's a big YouTube Azorius control player, and I'm just going to introduce him now. So welcome to the channel, Alex.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
So I just want to get a little bit of information about you for our guests. So do you want to just introduce yourself and what content you produce?
Yeah, so my name is Alex Blackard, or LessAlex, as I'm known on the internet. And I play a lot of blue-white X control on basically every format. Right now, I'm not really paying much attention to standard, though, just because Arena, the economy is atrocious and it's hard to keep up with standard. But I play historic, I play pioneer, I play modern. Shout out to Guillaume Wafatapa for 10-0ing that challenge a couple weeks ago, or last week, or whenever it was. In terms of like my Magic, what I've done in the past, I top 4'd a Star City Games Open in 2013. I've top 8'd mini SCG IQs and PPTQs. And yeah, I just make
Alex,
what's that?
I always wanted to go to a Star City Games
yeah, they're fun, man. They're
open
fun.
series, but obviously in the UK it's quite a bit of a challenge. So what are those sort of tournaments like there? How many players do you normally have at those?
So I believe, so you can, I mean, back in the before times, before, you know, the C word ruined everything, you'd have anywhere between like 500 and 1,000 people. Like it was wild. In Midwest,
Grand Prix then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a miniature Grand Prix essentially. And in the Midwest, it's kind of like the center of everything. So we would always have like the biggest tournaments, Indianapolis especially. St. Louis, when Star City Games used to come to St. Louis, and that's whenever I top 4'd the Open that I did. I think they had like 500-ish. And it was during Innistrad Ravnica standard. So Geist, it was standard Geist of St. Traff, Snapcaster Mage.
Oh my god.
The
golden era.
Yes. Sphinx's Revelation. So yeah,
very good.
It was sick.
Nice.
But yeah, I play Magic. I'm on Twitch and YouTube. You can find me over at those places /LessAlex. So youtube.com/LessAlex, twitch.tv/LessAlex. And I stream weekly. I put out a video or 2 a week, depending on schedule, because I, have a job and have family duties and everything. So whenever I can make content, I try to make content. So
we've actually got a viewer that's just made a comment, actually.
Oh, cool.
So we got a person that's just joined the channel, on the stream, sorry. I just built blue-white control. However, I'm missing Kahira and Chalices. Is it still viable? What do you think, Alex?
I think so. I mean, Kahira, if you're playing the version of blue-white with all force solitude, Kahira is nice. But I don't think you need it. And as far as Chalice, I mean, what do you think? I like Chalice just because against all of the decks that like Living End and the Crashing Footfalls, I think is the name of the card. But
yeah, I think there's so many one drops at the moment that Chalice is actually viable in the main, isn't it?
Well, yeah, especially if Murktide's going to be like the best deck, the de facto best deck. Chalice might be really good.
Yeah, I mean, we was just discussing earlier actually before we went live about the Blink deck and how Ephemera and
so good.
those sort of spells are really, really good one drop. So Chalice for 1 seems pretty amazing. Powers has also said that he's got 3 or 4 Solitude. Do you think you can get away with 3? Or do you need the full 4, Alex?
I mean, I like the list you posted. I think it was yesterday or the day before on Twitter. It was solid, and I think you're only playing 3.
Yeah, I was playing 3 Solitude, 3 Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about Azorius or blue-white X, whether you're playing green or splashing red, the configuration changes from tournament to tournament, right? So I don't think you can ever stamp down and dig your feet in and say, hey, this is absolutely the 75 you have to play this week. I think it's and as Powers says here, Amulet's popular at LGS, so you know you have to build your deck with that in mind, and especially if you're an in-store player, you have to really take into consideration your metagame. So me saying X card is better than Y card might be true for my metagame, but you know it really, really does, more so I think than any other deck. It really does change based on the tournament and what you expected to be playing against. I mean,
I was saying yesterday to one of my patrons actually, because he was talking about the deck, and I was saying to him that sometimes playing something that's a little bit different from the norm can actually get you extra wins and extra advantage, because when people get too used to the meta game and they look up online, and then if someone goes against that and actually plays something like, for example, me yesterday playing 3 Snapcaster Mage, I don't think they expected to see that. So I think they expected to see the Solitudes. So I think I think by doing that, playing something a little bit different, I think you actually catch people a lot off guard, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I was watching Aspiring Spike playing the other day. I forget like what deck he was playing, but he was playing against Control, and the guy played a couple of spells off the beginning, and Spike was like, oh well, he's playing Wafatapa's list. So to your point, playing something, even if it's like 2 to 5 cards difference, that could be a huge advantage, especially for Control, because we got tricks.
Well, yeah, exactly. We definitely got tricks. Powers has just said that you could do a 2-2 split on Solitude and Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah.
What I will say about that is,
I mean, sure,
it's good, but for me, I would like to have a few little more flashy type options. And what I will say about Amulet is having flash creatures, even a 2-1, like you're beating down for 2 every turn. You're putting pressure on them, and that's what you need to do. You need to, the more you sit back and keep up your counter spells against Amulet, the more they can strategize around sort of what they want to do. But if you're like beating them down every turn for 2 every 2 turn, or 3 even, you're putting pressure on them, and that's when they can make mistakes.
Oh yeah, and if they get froggy with their Azusa and they attack, you can just block, and it can be a big game changer if they're not expecting it.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously with Solitude, for example, I sometimes, if I want to put pressure on my opponent, I will just Solitude hard cast and just start smashing for free, because at the end of the game, we need to try and get the game, especially against Amulet, over as soon as possible, because
their late game is, our late game's good, their late game's better.
yeah, exactly. You really, and also it's like you want to disrupt their lands. If you got Field of Ruin in the main, for example, you really want to be blowing up their bounce lands rather than just destroying like a single mana.
Yeah.
So if they're if they bounce their land and then you Field of Ruin their bounce land, that could be a massive blowout in terms of mana reduction.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to highlight some decks then, Powers. We'll just answer this one last question before we do highlight this. So the Amulet deck Friday night cast turn 2 Titan trigger on the stack, Solitude him. he got wrong bounce lands and died to Pact. Felt so good.
That's nice.
Well, there you go. Sounds like you're doing the right things, Powers. So
I love when my opponents died because their cards, they can't pay for their cards. They're pack triggers. That happened to me on stream when I was playing Historic. They like on turn 3 or something played Pact Negation, and I was like, "Your turn." And they had like 3 lands in play, and they're like, I love the little animation on Arena when their head blows up, and you're just like,
yeah.
Got it.
I love that. I love it because yeah, you are right. Like you never want to pass the turn so fast as a control player,
Right?
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. All right, so we're just going to bring up some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. What I am going to start off with is the modern metagame. We're going to look at the top 5 decks, and then we're going to move on to some control cards that have just entered certain control decks.
Yeah.
And then we're going to look at some modern leagues and some decks that are 5-0'd.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. Spreading Seas, your green pass. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. Anyway, so we're just going to get this up. All right, so we are going to start off with, it appears to be, well, we both agreed earlier, didn't we, Alex, that Murktide seems to be the top deck at the moment. So we're just going to get this up.
The deck's good too. I like this deck a lot. It does a lot of what I like to do in Magic, which is, you can kind of pressure. You have pressure, and you also have some controlling aspects. I played this before a while back, and I really like this deck. If it weren't,
it does feel a bit like. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
It feels like, even though it's like an aggro deck, it feels like a control deck at the same time. If that makes sense. So it's got some like control elements, doesn't it?
You can definitely shift gears, which I definitely like. And obviously Ragavan. I mean, all of these creatures are just world beaters, honestly.
Yeah.
Dragon Rage Channeler. If you can ever steal this card with Archmage's Charm, it's excellent because the surveil is insane, especially in a control deck. But like all of these creatures, all 3 of them are just excellent, and they're so efficient. I mean, Murktide gets big fast. They are very good at putting cards into their graveyard. So
I like the Dragon Rage's Channeler a lot, and also a free flyer in the air, beating down on your opponent after you've just stolen it is very, very good. What I will say though, and I saw someone get caught off guard by this. Is never use an Archmage's Charm on a dash Ragavan. Because it actually goes back to the opponent's
wasted. You just wasted 3 blue mana.
I saw someone do this the other day, and
it does not go back to your hand, even though you gain control of it. Surprisingly.
And what I will say, what you said about the Murktide actually is, I like the artwork on this, by the way. That's the showcase one. I think
the sketch art.
You're very swish. What I will say about this is it's a beater in Legacy as well for 2 blue. I mean,
2 mana.
You're getting a massive creature, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it can get up to what, an 8/8, I think, typically. But even as like a 4/4 or a 6/6 or whatever, like if you don't have it as a control, like I'm looking at this through the eyes of a control player, this thing could just kill you in a couple turns, right? Like you basically have to have Solitude or a Wrath, obviously. But because obviously there's no way we can, you're probably not going to march this. That would be insane. And obviously Prismatic Ending, just there's literally no way to Prismatic Ending this. So
I really like this creature. What I will say is, Powers has asked Murktide's bad matchups. What do you think they are?
So I disagree. I think Murktide is one of Control's best matchups.
No. I think what he's asked is, what are the bad matchups?
What do
you think they are?
I'm not too skilled with this deck. I only played it for about 2 leagues worth of matches. So I wouldn't be able to really even put my input on that. But have you played, or have any knowledge on that?
I
Because
think my matchups against it with Azorius Control have been quite good because of
yeah,
Solitude and Prismatic Ending. I
yeah, I
think
think
Prismatic Ending against this deck is very, very good. Because obviously you could just cast it for 1 white and get rid
yeah,
of their Ragavan or their Dragon Mature Channeler. And then obviously the Solitude deals with the
yeah,
Murktide movement. What I will say though is because they play counters in the main,
it can be
sometimes
tricky.
they're able to get their Murktide out. And if you haven't got a Solitude for whatever reason, like you maybe can't afford them because they're like $50 each. Um,
Yeah.
and I really struggled to get rid of one the other day. I had to March of Otherworldly Light for pump 3 mana into it and get rid of 2 white cards
Oh my gosh.
just to get rid of Murktide Region.
You,
I was like, I hope he ain't got a counter spell.
you got to do what you got to
And
do.
lucky enough for me, he didn't. But yeah, it would have been an absolute blowout if he did.
Yeah, like you said, I think if they're able to land an early threat and protect it with counter spells and stuff, it can be rough. But I think generally speaking, that's not how these games play out for Azorius Control versus this deck. And I would
Yeah,
say typically Azorius is favored unless they draw like a god. Like they have to draw extremely well.
yeah,
Um, all of our answers line up so well with their threats. Prismatic Ending X equals 0 is often good enough, obviously, to kill their Darcy's and their Ragamans.
yeah.
And I think, Wrath is obviously excellent against them. So
What I
anyway,
will
that's
say
my
for Azorius as well, what Powers just alluded to as well, is Baby to Fairy
oh
against
yeah.
this deck is amazing.
Yep. And
Sorry, go on.
oh, I was just gonna say Chalice on 1 is really good because look at if you move your mouse, look how many 1-drops they have.
Yeah, so you've
So many.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
It's
6, 6 1-drops. I mean, that's
and
pretty.
it's like half of like literally 50% of their spells are 1-drops. So
Yeah, I was able to chalice the other day actually for one against this deck, and it was
yeah.
very, very good. What I will say is sometimes they have the what's the spell where they can destroy target artifact, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards.
Prismari Command.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
Prismari Command.
You got
Sometimes they do play Prismari Command in the main, maybe as a 1 or 2 of. So just
yeah,
be aware of that. That your chalice for 1 is not going to
absolutely.
be. It may not stick around for the entire match because they might have a couple Prismari Command in the main that might catch you off guard. So be a little bit wary of that.
Yep.
So in terms of like the spells, and we've gone through the creatures. We've got Consider. What do you think of Considering Control? Do you think it's better than Opt, or do you think Opt's better?
So when I watched Wafo Tapa's stream, right?
Yeah.
And he was asked this question. This was the most asked question on his
Mm,
stream. Why are you playing Opt over Consider? Don't you want? And because he was playing Snapcaster Mage, it seems like it makes sense.
yeah.
However, sometimes there are cards that you don't want in your graveyard. You don't want a Teferi in your graveyard. That doesn't work well. And seeing as your win conditions are so light, like you only have 2 Teferis, you only
Yeah.
have 1 or 2 Jace the Mind Sculptors. And also another reason is that you might not want to play it. It's a little thing, but it can be big and it can come up. Emrakul, if you ever put that into your graveyard, you lose your chance to do shenanigans with Snapcaster Mage because it'll shuffle back. Now obviously that's only relevant in basically one matchup, but
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, scrying is fine, and I like being able to kind of control and make sure that I know my win conditions are going to stay in my deck. Because if you consider on turn 1 and you see a Teferi, well, no, you don't necessarily want that right now, but you definitely do want to have access to that later in the game.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean,
Definitely.
that's kind of, and I'm not saying that these thoughts are my own because Guillaume Afetapa is the greatest control player ever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he does bring up good points. And then I read Jerry T's article as well, which only further solidified my thought process
I
on
think
why.
obviously considering this deck is great because obviously you've got the delve shenanigans and then
In this deck
you've
it's
got the
insane.
unholy heat, haven't you? So you want unholy heat to be dealing 6 rather than dealing 2.
Oh yeah,
And,
this deck.
6 against a planeswalker like a big Teferi or something is just for 1 red mana is backbreaking, isn't it? So
Oh yeah,
whereas
and Murktide and Dragon Rage Chandler both want cards in the graveyard. It makes sense why it's in this deck. Over Opt.
I think the Spell Pierce, by the way,
that's scary.
Yeah, it is absolutely awesome against certain decks, and even having it in like a control sideboard sometimes.
Oh yeah,
as a 2 of can be quite useful. I have it in my Legacy Miracles deck, 2 Spell Pierce, and it's been very very good for me there. So I think the deck's very very good. What I will say is expressive iteration, I feel, has made the deck even better. I know it's been around for a while, but most of the time you're getting a land off the free and playing the land, and then obviously getting an extra card. So in terms of like card advantage, you get quite a lot for 2 mana, don't you?
Yeah, it looks like it's like an impulse or something like that, or like anticipate, but like it's so like as long as you're playing this on turn 3 before you play your land, this card is it almost feels like I can't believe it's legal in Modern. I'm not saying that they should ban it, but like it is very powerful.
Yeah, very very powerful for an uncommon as well. It's very very powerful.
Yeah.
And like I said, sometimes I see some Wallies playing this on turn 2. I don't know why. I mean, why are you doing this on turn 2? But there you go.
That seems like you're wasting its potential. It has a very high ceiling, and
exactly. You got 4 Archmage's Charm, 4 Mishra's Bauble.
Oh, man, Archmage's Charm is so
Bauble,
good.
still seeing play. Obviously, it's still good in certain decks, isn't it? So.
Oh yeah.
So even without Lurrus, it's still being used. What I will say is there's one of the Soaring City here.
I like it.
I like this card a lot.
Yeah, because if you think about it from their side against Azorius, being able to bounce. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but we were just talking about the artifact X = 1. You can bounce it.
The March of Otherworldly Light.
No, I'm sorry, the artifact. Chalice of the Void. Okay. I was blanking on the name for a second. Yeah, but they're able to bounce it and then maybe counter the Chalice on the way back down. Yeah, I mean, Otawara, I think for like every blue deck is just like a 1-of.
Yeah, definitely a 1-of.
What's the downside? I guess it's a little worse against Blood Moon, but it's fine.
I actually was able to, because I didn't have a counter spell at the time, and he cast Blood Moon, and I was playing a 3-color deck, and I was able to bounce back their Blood Moon with this, and then for my turn, I actually drew a counter spell. So when he tried to play the Blood Moon again, I had the counter spell.
Nice.
So I was like, happy days. What I will say for this, though, it does say it costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature. Well, you've got Ragavan in this deck.
Yep.
So even if your opponents, they might forget that, it costs 4 mana, but they might forget that you've got a Ragavan on the battlefield and that you're able to cast this for 3 mana rather than 4.
Yep.
So that might be relevant. That might be relevant at some point.
Could definitely come. I wish it said legendary permanent. That way we could use it with Planeswalkers. That'd be pretty great. It doesn't though, but yeah, I think Otawara. I think all of the channel lands in the correct decks are just like, they're so good. They're so versatile.
Yeah, I like him a lot, mate. So anyway, I think the sideboard is more controlling anyway. So I think they're going to go to like Jace the Mind Sculptor, Mystical Dispute, Blood Moons,
Jace the
Relic, obviously for Dredge and stuff like that. Because I think they do have a horrible time against Dredge. Actually, this deck.
Oh yeah.
That might be one. That might be one deck actually that Powers. If you're still here, I think you are in the chat. I think this might struggle against Dredge actually.
Yeah, Powers had mentioned Tron. I think that's probably Tron might be a pretty bad matchup for this deck. I think that's probably true. If I mean, man, turn 3, blow up a land. It's pretty good.
Or even Ugin on turn 4. I mean, that would be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But obviously you have got counter spells and Archmage's Charm and stuff, so you can maybe get an early threat out early. Like when I played against Tron recently, I had the Ragavan out quite early and basically just putting them under pressure, and the extra mana from the Ragavan was able to pay for all the counter spells. So if you can get something like an early threat out, maybe you can have a decent matchup against Tron. Who knows? But if they are able to slam Ugin or even Ulamog, because obviously they get the cast trigger, don't they?
Yep.
That could be pretty backbreaking.
That cast trigger always gets you.
Oh yeah, exactly. So it's a very difficult matchup. But anyway, we've talked about Murktide for quite a while now, so we'll move on to the next one. So this is a deck that we looked at earlier, actually, and we thought that control, maybe blue-white control, has a fairly decent matchup against it because of Baby Teferi. Now, do you want to just explain to the people that are watching, Alex, what we were discussing earlier?
Yeah, so this is kind of a new-ish deck. I mean, it's definitely it's configured a little bit differently than it was previously. But yeah, I mean, this is a white-black blink, essentially. So they're going to use cards like Persist, Undying Evil, Ephemerate to blink their solitudes, their griefs, even their Blade Splicer. Shout out 2013 Blade Splicer is back in action in Modern. Like,
hey, I've got a playset of these. I thought they were going to be gone for good, but
yeah, Blade Splicer, the little creature that refuses to go away, I guess. No, I think this deck is pretty sweet.
You missed one card though, mate. To play.
Yeah. Obviously, the Stoneforge Mystic is what is the glue that holds the deck together, because it goes and gets all of the Cauldron Completes and Batter Skulls, and Lion Sash is pretty good against Azorius control. But yeah, I see why people are kind of figuring out that this deck is pretty good. Being able to bounce or flicker their griefs and flicker their solitudes. Specifically, grief against us is really like, we were talking before we went on, and we were kind of commiserating about this deck a little bit. They played their grief on turn one. They get to Thoughtseize me or whatever, and then they ephemerate it, and double Thoughtseize on turn one is just like almost impossible to.
Imagine if you mulligan to 5 or even 6.
Yeah. Like, game over. Game over. Yeah, but like you said, Teferi 3, very, very, very good. They can't do all the shenanigans. And
I think Baby Teferi is great, and then also you've got the Chalice for 1, which absolutely shuts down all the Mana Curve Rebirth, the Undying Evil. You've got the Ephemera. It's just really, really good. I mean, even like a second Chalice on 2, but then you really think you're sort of shutting yourself out there with counter spells and stuff like that. So it all depends on the control deck you're playing, really. I mean, if you're playing like a mono red control, you might be able to have Chalice on 1 and then Chalice on 2. It all depends. But it's pretty. Well.
So Powers asks, does Big J still have a spot main deck in blue-white, or is it Wandering Emperor better? I don't think it's necessarily an either or. I often think that Magic players in general, not just control players, but Magic players are always like, is it this or this? Like, why not both? I always think of that little meme. Why not both?
Yeah.
I like the Wandering Emperor. I'm a huge Wandering Emperor fan. In Pioneer right now, I'm playing 4 because in that format, it does everything you want. But talking about Modern, I like the Wandering Emperor as a one of, at least. Jace has been kind of underwhelming to me recently. And maybe that's just like what I've been playing against, right? Online, like, who knows? Again, metagame dependent, but I think if I were to register and like play in a challenge or something, I'd probably just split them down the middle and split the difference, play one of each, because I like diversifying my threats and my answers.
But what you say there, Alex, because if you've got, it's horrible having too much of one planeswalker, because if you've got multiples in your hand, you're
So bad.
thinking to yourself, like, if this was maybe like a one of like the Wandering Emperor, then I could have 2 planeswalkers on the battlefield. And if
Yep.
there's, if this was a one of something else, I could have 3 planeswalkers on the battlefield. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you've got 2 or 3 planeswalkers on the battlefield, unless you've got their opponent's got Ugin or I don't know,
Yeah.
some sort of board wipe to get rid of non-land permanents,
You can't lose.
you know, you're in an incredible position, aren't you? I mean, I was able to finish
Yeah.
with Black
Absolutely.
White the other day. Actually, I had Big Teferi, Little Teferi, and Jace on the battlefield. I mean,
The dream.
that is the dream. You know what I
The
mean?
dream. Yeah.
Uh, and I was actually playing Jace in that one, so I think you
Yeah.
saw the list, didn't you, Alex? And
Yeah.
I was playing 4 Jace, Big Teferi, and Little Teferi. I wasn't actually playing the Wandering Emperor, but I saw a list that actually had all 4 planeswalkers in it. So
Yeah.
that might be worth giving it a go. Maybe a one of Jace, one of the Wandering Emperor, maybe 4 Little Teferi, and maybe 1 or 2 Big Teferi.
Yeah, that's typically what I'm on. I usually stick with 3 3 mana Teferi, 2 big Teferi, and then 1 of Emperor and Jace. But again, it depends what you think you're going to play against. Everything is subjective. Nothing is correct. Nothing is incorrect. Well, I guess there is objectively. You don't want to just jam 4 of every single planeswalker. That would be kind of
No.
crazy. But
Yeah.
but
I
nothing
think
is
Alex has
absolute.
asked, by the way, what do you take out for one of the Jace?
Say that again.
What do you take out for putting in one of the Jaces? But it's hard to do this when you haven't. Maybe I'll get your deck list up.
Oh.
Your deck list up on if I can
Oh, for
maybe.
powers, yeah.
It's hard to. I don't know if I can do that. I've clicked on the thing, but
Oh, you can. I think in the. Oh, yeah.
yeah, I can't actually click on the link.
Yeah, I can click on it from here. Let me see. So we've got here. I'll send it to you in the other chat.
Yeah, then maybe I can actually open it up and we can we'll
Yeah,
have a look at your deck in.
There it is. Yeah. So Powers is not playing Jace the Mind Sculptor. He's playing Think Twice. That's something that's been popping up. Obviously, again, Guillaume Fatapa is influencing control players everywhere. I don't think this is the be all end all card that a lot of control players think it is. I do. It's nostalgia for me getting to play this card because this is I was playing in my heyday. This is the card I love. Think Twice. I think it could just as easily be like opt. Like there's not too big of a difference, right? I mean this list looks good.
I still really like Jace. I would always have, because I was playing against it the other day and the brainstorm was just
it's good.
For me, like being on the opposite end of it, because they had the Jace and I didn't. I was just like,
you can't
hand
win.
in my head, like, what's going on?
It's miserable if you're on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He went from like 2 cards, and then I think 2 or 3 turns later, he was up to 7.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the hell happened? So I think, did you send me you sent it to me in the private chat, actually. So that's all.
So this looks very similar to what
I'll copy this and put it on the other screen so we can actually see it.
Yeah. So this list looks very similar to.
Oh, here we are. Yeah, got it.
Pharaoh, if you know John Pharaoh, he's a huge fire ice. He loves that card. Which I've been.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of 1-drops, isn't there, at the moment? You got Ragavan, you've got
it kills so much.
Before it. Yeah.
Oh, and if you
you've got the Noble Hierarch. Is the Noble Hierarch a 1/1 or is it a 1/2?
Noble Hierarch is a 0/1, I believe.
0/1, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So you can get rid of that. Even you can get rid of the other Hierarch, the Jund Hierarch.
And it does have the hidden mode of being able to kind of time walk your opponent. If you're in need of drawing a card, you can ice their land at upkeep and then draw a card. It's pretty decent. I've been very impressed with it. On paper, it looks underwhelming. Fire Ice looks underwhelming, but I've been very impressed with it.
I was able to ice someone's Tron land during their upkeep and
Oh, that
stop
feels
them from
excellent.
casting
Yeah.
like Karn and stuff like that. So it was just, and obviously drawing the extra card just buys you a bit more. Well,
Oh, yeah.
hopefully buys you a bit more time because you can draw into like your counter spells and stuff like that. So, and I think the Memory Deluge, for me, actually, I
What are
don't
your
know
thoughts
if
on that?
you've
I've
got
liked.
another one. Pardon?
I was just gonna say I like Deluge a lot, and I could see the argument of playing Deluge over Jace.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
it's just you get your cards now, you get your, and then later it's obviously if you ever get to flash it back. If you get to flash back a Deluge, you're not losing. Like, let's just say that.
yeah, 7 cards deep is actually really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically Modern's version of Dig Through Time, which
Mm.
we all know how powerful that card is.
Yeah, I remember playing that in Standard. Oh my god,
And
those were the
again,
days.
I'm not saying that Memory Deluge is better than Jace the Mind Sculptor. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I can see the argument for both sides of the card, both sides of both cards.
Yeah,
And again, I like how this list has Cryptic Command and Memory Deluge. Sometimes people cut the Cryptic for a second Deluge. Um,
what do you think of the Think Twice here?
yeah, so I was talking about that earlier. I don't know. I know people were losing their minds over Think Twice and was like, oh, this is so good. This is going to put us back up to top dogs. Like, it's good. It's fine. I don't think we need to lose our minds over it. It is nice
Yeah,
whenever you don't have anything to do on turn 2 and turn 3.
I think I was
But
playing this about 5 years ago. If I'm honest, I haven't touched it since.
yeah, I've played it. I've played it since recently, and it was fine. Again, I think these could be ops. I think they could be March of Otherworldly Lights.
Mm,
The fact that this list doesn't have March of Otherworldly Light is, I think that card's
surprising, isn't
very
it?
good. I think,
Yeah. I think actually you need March of Otherworldly. What do you think of only having one Shark Typhoon? That's sort of seeing less and less play now, isn't it?
yeah, I think because of March of Otherworldly Light, this card's starting to get pushed out of the deck.
Yeah,
And this is a card that we play 1 or 2 main and then 1 side, and we almost always, at least I do, I almost always side it in.
yeah,
It's funny because sometimes there are cards like that, right? Even though we bring them in almost every matchup, they aren't necessarily like a 3 of main
yeah,
because you
yeah,
need certain other cards. Like Jace isn't particularly good against aggro decks, but Shark Typhoon is.
yeah,
But
yeah,
Jace, on
yeah.
the flip side of that, is extremely good against control. So I think Shark Typhoon has its points in the metagame, but March of the Otherworldly Light is just, it hits. Yes, it's not good on mana. Like mana wise, you're always going to lose, right? Because you're playing 1 more for whatever it is. But it's so dang versatile.
Yeah, I mean,
And it,
hitting artifacts, enchantments, and creatures, it is very flexible, isn't it? Especially when you got Hammer Time, that's quite popular in the format. I mean, obviously they've just lost Lurus, but it's still, I think it's still
yeah,
quite popular and it's still doing pretty well. So being able to target the equipment is
mhm,
actually massively relevant, especially a Colossus Hammer or something like that.
yeah, and it can hit creature lands too, which is important.
Yeah,
Which most of your removal cannot,
mm,
because most things just say non-cre or non-land.
non-land. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I remember playing against someone who had an engineered explosives, and I attacked his colonnade, and he sacked the engineered explosives, and I'm like, what is he doing? I was like, win for me.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for sharing the deck powers.
Yeah,
Should we get back to? Sorry, go on, Alex.
I was just gonna say I think that list is fine.
Mm,
I would feel fine playing that list. Again, I don't think Think Twice is. I think that the Think Twice got brought into the forefront of control players' minds again because of Guillaume Wafatapa just being able to take a ham sandwich and top 8 with it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he's just trying things, but oftentimes control players will see something that he doesn't be like, this is it. This is what we got to do.
yeah. I mean, just because he's making top 8
Doesn't mean
with the cards that he's got doesn't
you are.
mean that everyone else can make top 8 with
Yeah.
those exact cards. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. I know what you're trying to say. All right, let's go on to the third deck then from the top 5
Yeah.
of the modern metagame.
The-
Sorry, we got we got Amulet Titan.
The big one, the big stompy boy.
We were just literally talking about this. He's a
Yeah.
naughty boy. He's
Yes.
dear. Okay, so
Yeah, you and I were
discuss
talking
a little bit about it then, Alex, what you think, and then I'll discuss what I think about the deck.
Yeah, we were talking before the stream about whether this was a good or a poor matchup or indifferent. I still believe that this is not a good matchup for Azorius. I mean, they do one thing and they do it very well. You have to, obviously we do have things like, well, March of Otherworldly Light now. We have Prismatic Ending that takes care of their amulets extremely efficiently. But their late game is so much better than ours.
Yeah.
It's like we can't just stall out the game to turn 8 and like uptick it to Teferi for a couple turns and expect them to concede. That's not going to happen like it would against a burn deck or against a Murktide deck, right? It's just not going to happen. They're going to eventually be able to cast a Primeval Titan that you can't counter, and they're going to give it haste and double strike and shadow or bands with others or whatever the hell Slayer's Stronghold adds to the who knows what that card does, but they're going to crush you for infinite damage. I believe that this is a poor matchup. It's winnable. It's definitely winnable. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I do think
I would say it's about 70% in their favor. If I'm honest.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully you'll be playing against a novice who's just took the deck on. But
yeah,
if you're playing it against an experienced player, I think they're about 70% ahead. I do think that the inclusion of the Cultivator Colossus, I was playing against this and they were able to resolve this. And when a land comes into play, they draw a card, but they can keep repeating the process of if they got a land in their hand, they can play the land again and then draw a card. So basically, they just loop through and just
very good
draw cards. And you know, they play so many lands, like I think it's 32 lands plus 4 MDFS. What's that?
Yeah,
MDF?
that's a modal dual face. So that's turn timber symbiosis.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah. So you've got that as well. So you got 36 land in the deck.
It's so many.
So if the Cultivator Colossus resolves, this thing can just literally draw a load of cards, put a load of lands into play, and they get multiple triggers off like the Valakut. You've got Urza Sagas coming into play. This is why I think the deck's even stronger now, because they used to rely a lot on the Valakut and the Field of the Dead, but I think Field of the Dead got banned, didn't it?
Field of the Dead got banned, and that's whenever this, in my opinion, right after the Field of Dead banning, I think that's when it was like a okay matchup for Azorius Control.
Yeah.
But now with Urza Saga, I actually forgot about Urza Saga. I'll be honest. They can do like I said, they do one thing and they do it very well. Well, they can also just make a gigantic couple of couple of Karnstructs and beat your face in like that.
Yeah, and also they've got the Dryad Valakut combo as well, haven't they? So
it does everything.
So you've got the Dryad Valakut combo, you've got the Primeval Titan to smash your face combo, you've got, and then you've also got the Urza Saga combo. So I mean,
Primeval Titan is a 1-card combo.
I mean, you can see why it's banned in Commander. It's so good. I think this deck is very, very versatile. What I will say in the sideboard, they haven't got any Veil of Summer, which that does surprise me, because I feel like Veil of Summer, if you've got this in the sideboard and you're playing against control, Veil of Summer is just an absolute blowout. But
I think that their matchup is so good that they don't really like. Would you rather improve your 70-30 matchup, or would you rather improve your like unfavored matchup, like your 30-70 matchups? Now I don't know what that could be. I guess like Burn would probably be pretty good against this deck, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose actually they haven't got the Veil, but they have got a Cavern of Souls
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
sideboard, which means that they're able to search for this and basically don't have to worry about their stuff ever being countered.
Yeah, they play it main. They play Cavern main as well, but and
Yeah, two of them in the
Bosages,
main and one of them in the side. Yeah.
Bosages always gonna be prevalent because they can now hit our creature lands. They can. There are awkward points when they could potentially hit a field of ruin.
Yeah.
You know, there are those awkward moments where you have to tap it, and
They have
they
got
don't have.
endurance in the sideboard now as well, which if you are playing Snapcaster Mage could be
very good.
Brutal.
And Tireless Tracker is just a very good value creature that if you don't have a way to remove it quickly, it's kind of like Teferi 5 for us, because if you let them get 3 or 4 clues against control, that's like very good.
Well, the thing is, it can be done when they've got Azusa, Amulet of Vigor, so they're able to like bounce back their lands,
they just
do all that stuff,
lands.
get more clues. So yeah, you are right. The Tireless Tracker, so much card advantage.
That card always, from when it was in Standard to now, it always gives me fits. Yeah. You gotta kill it very quickly, or else it will just like win the game, and you'll be like, how did I lose that game? And you think back, oh well, that Tireless Tracker survived 5 land drops and they drew 5 cards. Yeah, that's probably what lost me the game.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Powers is at work, by the way. I'm at work, so I'm watching in and out as customers come in. I love it, Powers. That's dedication. That is
dedication.
I love it. All right, let's go back then. So we've looked at Amulet Titan and we've discussed the matchup.
Yeah.
You agree that it's 70% in their favor?
It's pretty bad. I don't know. I always have a hard time putting an exact number on it, just because you'd have to play hundreds and hundreds of games to find out really the percentage. But I would say it is very, very strongly in their favor.
Yeah. I would agree on that.
Yeah.
I would agree. The Grazer on turn 1 feels terrible as well when you're playing against that, because
such a door.
Anyway,
it's such a
I don't want to see any more Titan for the rest of this.
Right. God. No more Titan talk. I hate Primeval Titan, man. I've always hated that card.
Hey,
do we want to talk about the mirror? We can talk about the mirror, yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about the mirror. Yeah, that'd be good actually. So Azorius Control then. So this is 4th in the metagame at the moment, which is actually quite high for control. Actually,
yeah, it's. I think anytime. So this is just like my general thought on Modern. If Azorius Control is one of like the top 5 or 6 decks in the metagame, generally speaking, Modern is in a good place, right?
Powers, this looks like exactly like your list.
Is it?
I think it is exact. I think he said this is similar to the list that I run, and I think it's exactly the same. Yeah, it is. So we've already looked at this.
Whose list is this one that we're looking at?
So this is, I think Power sent this to us, and he said this is a similar list to what I'm running.
Oh, okay.
And this is actually in the Modern metagame.
Is this Mr. Cafouet?
Yeah, so this is William Cook's deck, but I think Powers was sent it to us to suggest that this is very similar to what he was running. So we've actually already looked at this deck, and we've already discussed
Can we look at
another one?
Tapas or Zach Allen? Zach Allen's a buddy of mine. If you want to, we could check that one out.
He came 20 seconds, so let's have a look at his deck. There you go.
Very similar.
He's playing
3 Teferis and March, 4 of them March.
Yeah.
2 Deluge. So yeah, it looks like he opted to play Deluge over Jason Mind Sculptor. 3 Chalice main, which he must have been expecting heavy either Living
End Mark White decks.
Yeah, or Living End. I mean, Chalice is just good, I think. But
I mean, normally you want a Chalice for 1, don't you? But
I probably
there's hardly any 1 drops here, so you would normally just want a Chalice for 1. Look, whereas you're shutting yourself off with all these other 2 free mana spells.
Yeah, Chalice.
Sometimes you can Chalice for 0 as well, though, can't you?
Yeah, Chalicing for 0 is very strong. I probably wouldn't play 3 though. What did Joseph Bernal play at that Nerd Rage event? If
Let's
you
have a look. Oh, let's go
so he
back.
played Azorius, but let's see the configuration. I'm curious. Oh, where'd it go?
Yeah, I don't know where it's gone
If
though. Let's go back on.
maybe if you scroll down a bit, I don't know.
Oh,
Oh, there
yeah,
it
here
is.
we go. Let's have a look at this deck. Oh, there you go.
Kihira. Oh, so he's playing 2 Jason Mind Sculptor, only 1 Teferi hero. No, he wasn't playing any marches, and he was playing 3
No.
chalices as well. Oh wow! So I think that they were probably suspecting a heavy living in / crashing footfalls metagame, just based on
Yeah.
the amount of chalices. Because chalice,
Yeah.
they can't beat that card. I don't think they can. I literally don't think they can beat it main deck.
Yeah. Crashing Footfalls is actually a very bad matchup for control. Actually, I think it's very difficult to win against.
Not when you have 3 chalice the voids.
Not when you have 3 colors in the main, but without it, I mean, it's a very difficult.
It can be rough
Very
for sure.
What I will say about this we was just talking about it actually is they've got all 4 planeswalkers.
Yep.
They've got 4 Teferi, 2 Jace,
wow.
2 Wandering Emperor, and 1 Big Teferi. So it can be done. You can do quite well with this deck. You know, I think he came quite high, so not too bad. He did quite well. So I think it's a very Jeskai is still very, very good. What I will say for Jeskai is really you're only playing Jeskai for the fire and ice and
sometimes wear and tear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's practically blue-white control, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say this is blue-white mostly. Obviously, you like having the Jeskai Triome for prismatic ending. Just being able to hit 3 drops is excellent. Is there a way we could?
What do you think of like maybe putting in like a watery grave or something? So what I found the other day is I had the prismatic ending.
Yeah.
But there were so many 4 drops I couldn't get rid of because I didn't put in like an extra color. So maybe like putting in like a watery grave or something like that, or I don't know, like a breeding pool or something where you can just, you know, prismatic ending for 4 because it doesn't feel good when you can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Wafa Tapa's 10-0 challenge winning decks. He was playing. If we could get that up, that'd probably be. We could talk about his deck.
Waffle Tapa.
So his name is Waatoo, I believe. Yeah, you probably just.
Azorius Control?
Yeah, Azorius Challenge Azorius Challenge, maybe something like that.
Challenge. Yeah.
So he was playing Veil of Summer in the sideboard. And he
there we go. Look, I think this is it. 5 days ago.
Sounds right. I think it was the 7th, so was the day he won.
Here we are.
Yeah, that looks like it. There's the Veils. Yeah, so okay, so yeah, this is the list that I played last night for a bit. Seemed very strong. Wandering Emperor is excellent. He's playing 3 snaps. So it's kind of like an amalgamation of like the old school decks and like what you were kind of trying to do with Snapcaster Mage.
And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even see Waffle Tapper's list. I just literally wanted to play Snapcaster and Solitude in the same deck.
Great minds think alike there, friend. So
I was like, why am I like not playing Snapcaster Mage? I may as well just play both. Like, why can't I just play both?
Especially since he's playing 3 March of Otherworldly Light. Snapcaster Mage with March is obviously good. He's playing the whole gambit. He's playing Jace, Factor Fiction, and I believe he's playing, if you scroll down a little bit, Memory Deluge. Yeah, he's playing 1 Memory Deluge.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
And Opt. And again, we've already talked about why he was playing Opt over.
Why would you play, just out of interest, why would you play Factor Fiction and then 1 Memory Deluge? Was there a reason for that?
Well, I think what he said on stream was he just couldn't decide which was better. He said the first So the first Factor Fiction is better than the second Memory Deluge, I believe is what he said.
Oh, right.
Because you're often just never getting to flash back the second Memory Deluge, right? Like that'll
Yeah.
probably never come up. And Factor Fiction is just such a strong card, and the
Yeah, I mean, I
pile,
play Fact or Fiction in pre-modern because I actually play pre-modern myself. So,
yeah, it's
and Fact or Fiction in that format is just amazing.
yeah,
What I will say about the Memory Deluge, I'm not 100. Obviously I'm not going to question Waffle Tapper because he's amazing, but for me, I would have played maybe two Memory Deluge and then dropped the Fact or Fiction.
yeah. And
Um, so,
he also historically just likes one ofs. He
mm,
historically plays a bunch of fun ofs. So, and that's why you see like Dress Down in the main deck. I think
yeah,
that's hedging against like the elemental decks.
yeah.
Seems very good.
I think you can actually with the dress down though, you can actually
You
with the solitude, you can in response to the trigger of the solitude, you can then cast dress down.
Yep, and
So
keep
that
it.
solitude actually stays on the battlefield.
Yep, and you
So
can.
I think obviously there's a reason for that as well.
Oh yeah,
Um, I think in terms of the list, I think it's very very good. I like to see that. I'm glad to see that Opt's coming back actually because I really like Opt. I
yeah.
think in the sideboard then let's
Peek
have,
at the sideboard. Yeah, he's playing Veil of Summer, which means two things, right? He can his prismatic endings can reach 4 because he's playing Breeding Pool.
yeah
And obviously we were talking about this pre-show. Veil of Summer is a blowout in the control mirror. Like it's the 1-mana cryptic command.
yeah yeah exactly mate. It's really really good and also as well I suppose you can actually protect your permanents from a black or
Mm-hmm.
green source now. So like if they've
Yeah.
got like a black destroy target planeswalker spell or something like that, you're then cast Veil of Summer, protect your planeswalker,
Mm-hmm.
draw a card out of it as well. So I mean that's
Or
that's pretty cool.
if they thought sees you, or
Yeah, Thoughtseize, yeah, anything like that where they're trying to disrupt your hand. That's pretty cool. What I will
and
say is Powers has added that Fracturing Gust in the sideboard
yeah,
against
that
Ian Hammer is pretty good. Yes, it is.
yeah,
I was playing against Hammer Time. I think they had like 7 artifacts or something. I gained 14 life from it. So
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
if you
it's high
resolve
power.
fraction, if you resolve fraction gust, you're probably not losing.
Yeah.
Stony. So it's interesting though that Wafwatapa elected to play Stony Silence over Fracturing Gust.
Mm,
And then because he's playing Snapcaster Mage, there's no Rest in Peace. Instead, he's playing 3 relics.
yeah.
Which I like relic in control, especially since you can. It's just very, if you know how to play with it, obviously,
Yeah.
doing it every turn and making sure that
Mm.
you can keep Dragon Rage channelers at bay.
What do you think
Um,
about Soul Guide Lantern then? Do you think that's as good as Relic or do you think it's
what does that
worse?
one
Or...
do? I can never.
So
There's
when it
so
enters the
many.
battlefield, you can exile 1 card from. So you actually get to target. So they don't get to choose. And then then you can sack it. They exile their graveyard, or you could pay 1 mana and draw a card. What do you think about that? Because that sees quite a lot of play sometimes in sideboards.
Yeah, I mean they're very similar cards. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I
I
think.
think I.
Sorry.
Okay, so Soul Guide Lantern, you have to choose whether you're going to draw a card or blow up their graveyard.
Yeah.
Doesn't Relic just do both?
Yeah, but it targets yours as well, though, doesn't it? It targets everyone's
Does it?
graveyard.
Exile
And if you're
all.
playing Snapcaster Mage, you
Yeah,
may not want to get rid of your graveyard. That's
yeah,
the only thing that I would say.
that's fair. Another option would be Nile Spellbomb if you're playing black.
Yeah,
If you wanted to squeak in a Watery Grave, you could do
yeah.
that. I think
I mean,
for the matchups that you need it, right?
yeah,
The matchups like Dredge. Obviously, Dredge is a horrendous matchup for blue-white control. It just always has been.
yeah.
it seems like every time it gets a little bit better, they print something that makes Dredge just take the dominating position again. So I
Yeah,
think whenever you're bringing in these relics against those extremely graveyard centric decks, it might be smart to just take out your Snapcaster mages, or at least some of
yeah.
them. So I don't, and I don't know, obviously, how he sideboarded exactly against certain matchups, but
What I will say for that is actually you have a good point because but in the past you only had your Snapcaster mages as creatures most of the time. I think you may have had a Vendilion Click or
yeah,
a Brazen Borrower or something like that, and you didn't really want to take out your Snapcaster mages because they were part of your win condition.
sure, yeah,
But now that you've got a mixture of Solitude and Snapcaster Mage, you
and
can keep the Solitudes in and remove the Snapcaster mages.
Hall of Storm Giants too. Yeah, I mean
Yeah, and
Hall
you've
of
got
Storm
the
Giants
Manlands as
is
well. So
huge.
yeah, so you've got those to still win the game. So it's not the end of the world if you take out the Snapcaster Mages because you've got the Solitudes, you've got the Manlands,
Yeah,
and obviously you've got the Planeswalkers. So I think for me, like playing both Snapcaster Mage and Solitude makes a lot of sense because if you need to take out the Snapcaster Mages in certain matchups, you've still got the Solitudes to win the game
yeah,
with.
absolutely. And one thing he said, I was watching this Wafatapa stream, and there was a round where he had Teferi 3 and Teferi 5 on the battlefield. So like the game's over, right?
Yeah.
And he then draws Jace the Mind Sculptor, plays it, and he made a comment, something to the effect of, "Oh, here's Jace the Mind Sculptor for the victory lap after all the hard work has been, done and the game's all wrapped up." So that's kind of my, obviously when Jace is good, Jace is excellent, but
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of the time, in my opinion, and I hate that I am thinking and saying this, but Jace is, and I know you feel the opposite way, but Jace is
Yeah.
just like kind of maybe on the way out. I don't know. I
I
hate
think
to say that,
I think the inclusion of Unholy Heat in the format is
so good.
um, because even if you +2 Jace, if they've got Delirium,
Yep.
they can just Unholy Heat for 1 red mana and just blow up your Jace, which just feels absolutely terrible.
Yep.
And most of the time, you want to really, if you're going to play Jace, you really want to zero.
Oh yeah.
Get the brainstorm going. You don't really want to be +2ing.
Yeah. If you're plussing, you're like to Waffle Tapa's point, you're probably just already in such a good position that it honestly probably didn't even matter if you played the Jace or not.
What I will say here is you got the summary dismissal.
Mm-hmm.
Exile all other spells and counter all abilities.
Yeah, so he said he said that was against Titan.
Yeah.
And I forget the other deck that he said that was against. Obviously, if you ever played against Storm, that'd be insane against Storm.
Yeah.
Not that that's a real deck anymore, but
yeah. I think I've got 3 of these, and I used to play them in Standard, and I thought, oh, they're just garbage now. And now I'm thinking, actually,
yeah, I mean,
these are making a comeback.
10-0 is nothing to sneeze at. So
yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, so that's Waffle Tapper's list. I think that's a pretty good list, actually. I like that list a lot. So let's go back. We've already gone through Azorius quite a bit, and
yeah,
I want to go back to the 5th deck now. So we've discussed it a little bit. Crashing Footfalls then.
Yeah, and both Living End and Footfalls are kind of very similar. So in terms of like how we deal with them.
Yeah. So we want a Chalice.
You want a Chalice.
Little Teferi's great against this deck.
What's that?
Little Teferi.
Oh yeah, Little Teferi and Chalice are going to be your best friends. Granted, Brazen Borrower does throw a wrench into that plan because they can petty theft. So what they can do is petty theft your Chalice. The turn they're going to go off, and then obviously do the thing. However, obviously Supreme Verdict is very good against this deck.
Yeah, it is. It is very good. I think with the March of Otherworldly Light, with the tokens as well, you're able to, for 1 white mana, you're able to get rid of like a 4/4 Rhino or whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, March is
Um,
so good against this deck. Yeah.
yeah, like, and even Prismatic Ending for one of their 4 forces can be pretty sweet. What I will say is they do play the Force of Negation 4 of in the
Hmm.
main, which can be, because I think like at the moment Azorius control and most control decks are actually moving away from Force of Negation. They don't play it in the main
Yeah.
as much as they once did.
You'll see it
Uh,
as a one of in the sideboard occasionally, but and that
mm,
could change, right? That could Force could come back, especially if Tron starts to perk up.
yeah,
So
exactly.
Force Negation though is a beating in this deck because they typically are, if they have the violent outburst into the turn,
Mm,
on your turn, they can still have Force backup. It can be a
yeah.
beating. It can be an absolute bludgeoning, but yeah, this is
Yeah,
this is
so
a trick.
I think this matchups. Do you think it's in favor of control, or do you think it's in favor of crashing footfalls at the moment?
I think it is. I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of moving parts.
Mm,
I have been successful against it more so than not. So I am just. This is my personal play history bias speaking,
yeah,
but I think we are slightly favored, but not by much. Blood Moon out of the sideboard can be a beating.
yeah. I mean,
Obviously,
against Azorius is not too bad, but against like Jeskai or Esper or something, that could be
yeah. Well, see,
worrisome.
Azorius Control used to be one of the best Blood Moon, like best against Blood Moon decks, just because you played like 5 islands in like 3 or 4 planes. But
Mm,
now that you play like, especially with Otawara, you're playing like maybe 1 or 2 islands, probably just 1 planes, and Blood Moon can be really tough.
yeah, actually,
Especially,
you are right. Actually, that you are playing less basics than what you used to, because with the Field of Ruin, because you used to play 3 or 4 Field of the Ruin in the main, didn't you?
yeah, back in
You
the
were
day,
able
yeah.
to search off. You needed to play a lot of basics to
Hmm.
be able to search off with Field of Ruin. But now that Field of Ruin doesn't see quite as much play in the main anymore, does it? It doesn't. It's
Yeah.
not really required. I don't think Tron's as prevalent as it once
No.
was. And I think
And
that's why they've taken Field of Ruin out. Although you got Urza Saga still in the format, which is
yeah.
very, very annoying. Um, but
Yeah, so sideboarding against this deck, or playing against this deck after game one, I would definitely fetch up at least one basic of each type that you have. So 1 plains, 1 island. And then that can put you in a position where if they do Blood Moon you, you will have 3 colors of mana to prismatic ending their Blood Moon because they're giving you the red with the Blood
yeah,
Moon. And then you have your white and you have your blue. One time actually on stream, I needed to top deck a plains. Only had 1 plains in the deck. They had Blood Moon on the battlefield. I top decked the plains and hit their Blood Moon and unlocked all my lands and proceeded to win. It was sweet.
oh, nice, nice. That's good.
um, yeah. And then of course, Mystical Dispute still very good against us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Mystical Dispute, yeah, that's
What-
backbreaking. That is really backbreaking. You got the endurance as well,
yeah,
like getting rid of our
especially if
Grave
you're
Knight.
playing Snapcaster, which seems to
Yeah,
be the route that people are going to go towards. What do you think, though? Do you think this is a
I
good,
think
good,
it's.
bad, and
I mean,
different?
you are right. It's about 50-50. I think with Chalice in the main, it makes this matchup a lot better. And I think
Yeah,
what Waffletap has done is he's done that on purpose, hasn't he? He's put free Chalice in the main for a reason. And also, Chalice is great against the 1 drops in Murktide and Blink. So I mean, you've got
yeah,
Chalice is actually quite viable and useful
yeah.
at the moment, I believe.
I think Chalice, with Murktide being the most popular deck, at least for now, I think
Yeah,
Chalice is the way to go, honestly.
yeah.
Especially because it acts absolutely crushes these decks that want to cascade on you.
What will be interesting is whether or not Murktide realizes that and then actually starts bringing 1 or 2 Prismari command in the main. That's
Yeah,
going to be
then
interesting
it'll
to
be
see
an
whether or
issue
not they.
then, yeah.
Yeah, I think if they realize that everyone's going to be bringing in chalices, I think they might start to bring them in.
Yeah.
So those are the top 5 decks. I am aware that the stream's going on for like an hour and 10 minutes here. I just want to highlight 4 more cards that, or 5 cards that
Sure.
are used within control, and we just want to discuss them. Before we end the stream. So
Yeah.
just wanted to bring up March of Otherworldly Light. So I'll read it out, and then obviously you can share your thoughts and why it's so good and well potentially so good within control. So as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of white cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast. For each card exiled this way, exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less, and the spell cost is 1 planes in X.
Yep.
So, how do you feel about this in
Yeah.
control or within modern or standard or whatever?
Yeah, I love this card. I think it's at least a 2 of, I would say.
Yeah,
I've seen some lists run 4. I don't know. Maybe the sweet spot is 3. But yeah, whenever spoiler season comes out, we all try and dig and find the best control cards that could potentially see play in modern and, for me, Pioneer. And this was definitely one that I was like, okay, it gets around Chalice, right? It gets around Chalice,
yeah,
so you can blow up Chalices. If it's on 2 or whatever, you can Chalice for 3 and still blow it up because it says X value or less. So you can blow up and still unlock your counter spells. Obviously, it deals with basically everything that we need to. It can hit Pithing Needles, it can hit Ragavans, it can hit all sorts of things. Now, the downside, obviously, is you're always trading down on mana. You're always losing on the mana attrition battle. But it's just so versatile that I don't think it matters so much. And you can potentially hit things that are like 4 and 5 mana, really, if you have to, if you have to.
yeah, yeah. I
This
think like yeah. I mean, if you really do need to exile white cards from your hand, like we was discussing
Yeah.
before the stream, like I was against the Murktide region and I was only able to pump I think it was 1 white and 3 X into it, and I had to exile I think a big Teferi and a little Teferi just to get rid of the Murktide region. But if I didn't,
You were
I
gonna
would have
die.
lost the game.
Yeah.
But without that option though, without that option, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to win that game, and I would have ended up losing 0-2. So, and I ended up winning the match 2-1 in the end. So without that option,
Yeah.
I would have lost the match. So I like the fact that you've got that option, and spells that generally become cheaper by exiling other cards are normally pretty good. I mean, look at Force of Negation.
Yeah. Okay.
Look at Force of Will. Look at Force of Vigor. These type of cards. When you're able to make the cost cheaper or free in some instances.
Solitude. Yeah. Solitude.
Yeah, Solitude. Yeah, all the evoke spells. Yeah, you know that these cards are going to be fairly good.
Yeah.
And when I
Absolutely.
got this foil, lucky enough for me, I bought them for I think they were like $1.50 each or something.
Nice.
And I think they're like $8 or $9 or something now. So I think, yeah, anything that is like you can reduce the cost or make it free will always be pretty good in my opinion. And like you said,
Okay.
the flexibility of being able to target an artifact, creature, or an enchantment is very, very good. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Planeswalker on it. I think
Oh
if
my
it had
god.
Planeswalker on it, my God,
It would
that
be
would.
the perfect card. Oh my god.
I think maybe they had it on and they took it out after playtesting. Who knows?
Right. I
But
think between Prismatic Ending, this and well, just between Prismatic Ending and this, you pretty much cover almost everything that you would want to get rid of,
I mean,
especially if you are playing a 4th color, like if you're playing a Breeding Pool or a Watery Grave. I mean, what else is there, right?
well, I remember about 3 years ago, Alex, and I didn't have Marks back then, and I didn't have Prismatic Ending, and I was playing Condemn
Me
in
too.
the
Or
main.
Oust.
or
Remember
out.
Oust? We were playing that. I don't want to curse, but we were playing that pooper.
Yeah, we were playing that shit back then.
Yeah.
Now we're getting spoiled. We're getting
Now we
spoiled
have
now.
cards that aren't embarrassing. Like literally, I would show my friends who aren't control players, and they're like,
Yeah.
"You're playing Oust, really?"
I will
It's
tell you a story about Condemn, though. I
like,
was playing against Infect, and they tried to redirect the Condemn to the Spellskite, and because the Spellskite wasn't attacking,
doesn't
he
work.
paid the 2 life to redirect to Spell Sky, and basically the condemn still resolved.
Yep.
So that was actually good in that instance. So
Yeah, and another cool thing is like you can I once wiped a board of Death Shadows with Condemn
yeah,
because they gained the life and it killed the other two.
yeah, that's pretty cool. That's class. All right, let's talk about the next one then, Alex. So we got the Wandering Emperor.
Yes, sir.
By the way, just go back to March. So you said you play Pioneer. How many do you play of this in Pioneer?
Oh, like 3 or 4.
3 or 4. So similar to Modern, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in Pioneer, it's insane. Like, it's just the best because we don't have prismatic ending.
Yeah.
The only like we said, the only way you can make it better is if you put Planeswalker on it, but I think it would be just way too good.
That's cool. Let's move over to the Wandering Emperor then. So, okay, this is very good. So you've got 2 colorless, 2 planes. You've got Flash. You can, when it comes to play, you can activate it straight away. +1, put a counter on something, and then it gains first strike until end of turn. -1, make a 2/2 token with Vigilance. It's a Samurai. And -2, we can exile target tapped creature. You gain 2 life, which is actually quite relevant.
Oh yeah, super relevant.
It comes in with free loyalty as well. So, give me your thoughts on this then.
I love this card. When I saw it, I was like, I have to try it. I was listening to the Arena Decklist podcast, and I believe or maybe it was Dive Down. Anyway, I was listening to a Magic podcast, and they were like, I don't think that this is right in Control. And I was like, this card is everything you want to be doing in Azorius Control. In Modern specifically, because now that we are playing the Evoke creature, I'm blanking on the name.
Solitude.
Now that we're playing Solitude, the +1/+1 counters are relevant. Back in the day, you were only playing Snapcaster Mage. If this would have come out 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been like, eh. I mean, it's still probably been good. Don't get me wrong. But now that we're actually playing creatures, and you can even you can activate your Hall of Storm Giants, or you can activate your other man lands, and the counters stay on there permanently. So every piece of text on this card is relevant. Flash is probably the most important, because if it didn't have Flash, we probably wouldn't be considering it, to be honest. But it has Flash. The 2 life tacked onto the -2 is very relevant, like you said. Exiling a creature is obviously awesome. Making
I was able to Ulamog, exile an Ulamog the season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Obviously, I did have to lose a few cards, but
yeah,
you know, I was able to exile the damn thing, which was good.
Making a vigilant creature so it can pressure planeswalkers. It can protect our own planeswalkers. And again, that +1/+1 counter, giving it first strike is huge. Like, there's not much that beats 3 power first strike in Modern.
So I have a confession to make. When I first read it, I thought, oh, this is amazing. And then I was playing it on MTG, and I was like, okay, +1, attack. And then 1 and 2 after I attacked, I was like, it gives it counters. I thought it was +1/+1 until the end of turn.
It's so good.
So I was like, what? This is even better than I thought. I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So that's my confession. I thought it was just +1/+1. Sometimes they do +1/+1 until your next turn or something like that.
Nope, just counters. Just
counter on it.
This card's insane. I definitely like it as a 1-of. I'll probably play 1 in every Azorius Control deck that I play here on out. I almost think that this is just better than Jace the Mind Sculptor at this point as a 4-drop, because, hear me out, I know you're everybody, I'm gonna get killed in the comments whenever you post this on YouTube. It has Flash. If you play Jace the Mind Sculptor on turn 4, they can just, like you said, they can just Unholy Heat it or whatever. They declare their attackers, you flash in, kill their biggest thing, and then they Unholy Heat it. Well, at least you got you impacted the board. Jace isn't that great at impacting the board. You never want to minus Jace, so this card's excellent. I like it, at least as a 1-of, maybe even as a 2-of. I haven't tested it, but I would kick the tires on the idea for sure.
Can you hear that drilling in the background, Alex, or not?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit annoying now. I don't know why that's suddenly started. So what about Pioneer then? Do you think this is 4 or
in Pioneer? It's I'm playing. I think I'm playing 4 or 3, 3 or 4, and then like I play Historic on Arena too because it's just like the only deck that I have. I'm playing 4 in Historic, like for sure. This card's insane in Historic.
Yeah. We have to invest by Mythic World cards, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one then. We got the Soaring City then. So Legendary Land. And then we've also got Channel, Discard, Soaring City, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. And if you have got a legendary creature, it's 1 less to cast.
Yeah.
For how many legendary creatures you've got. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier. I think in Azorius, this is a one of at least being able to bounce Planeswalkers, which is typically a card type that Azorius struggles with mightily, is huge. I think that this is just a one of. It's so free, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think unless they've got like a Tail's End or something.
Oh gosh.
At least you know that it's not going to be countered. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about the fact that if you're playing like the Control Mirror or they play counter spells, like maybe in Murktide Regent, for example, at least you know that you can bounce back their Murktide Regent without it being countered.
Oh yeah,
it's quite good.
And you know something else too is if you're still playing Cryptic Command, you can do some funny things where you could bounce this back to your hand and then still hit one of their threats, one of their troublesome cards. I think this is great.
You may want to actually play this early. You might be desperate for land or something. So you play it early, then later on you bounce it back with your Cryptic Command and then use it for value. You got a good point actually. That's good.
In Pioneer, I think you're definitely playing it because Pioneer, it's really hard to deal with Planeswalkers, especially in Pioneer. So you're definitely playing 1 or 2 of those in Pioneer.
You ain't got Prismatic Ending in that format, have you?
Yeah.
And then we got the Seat of the Empire. Do you think this? I know some people have tried it out in Control, but do you think this seats playing Control?
I've tried it. I think the big issue here is that we need planes, like actual factual planes. You have to play 1 planes, right? Because if you ever do face down a Blood Moon deck or somebody Field of Ruins you have to have targets. You can't just get strip mined, right?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest issue is it's competing with planes. And you never really want to draw planes. You never really want to draw a source that doesn't make blue mana because of Archmage's Charm is just like the best card ever. So I would try it. I don't know. 4 damage.
Do you think it would see more play in Pioneer rather than Modern?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think
So it still has the same issue because you do want Pioneer. You still need your blue mana, but it doesn't have Archmage's Charm. So you don't have to worry about having triple blue. But yeah, in Pioneer, I like this as a one of. There's just so many creatures it kills at 4 damage.
Yeah, it's quite relevant actually, isn't it?
Yeah, and 3 isn't bad, right? Like that's pretty good.
3 mana, for 4 damage. I mean it's pretty good. It deals with the endurance as well when you think about it. Endurance is a 3/4. So yeah, that's
in Modern, in Pioneer though, I think it's much more doable.
The last one I'm going to talk about then, and this is nostalgia for me.
Hey, you've got that art. The best art of Cryptic Command right there. I know it's newest, but look at the folds in that. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So good.
And yeah, so how do you feel about this being pushed out of Modern? Because I saved this one for last. I wanted to talk about this.
This is a curveball. So chat, he didn't show me this card. I didn't know it. I love this card. I have 4 foils in this art. I love this card. I still think you can play it as a one of because you can still, I mean, it does some really cool stuff. Like I said, you can bounce your Otawara. You can bounce their Tron lands. You can tap down their, I mean, we know what the card does, right?
You can save your Planeswalker. You can bounce back your Snapcaster Mage. You can bounce back Solitude. and then recast it again for value.
Snapcaster Mage, the fact that Snapcaster Mage is seeing play again, I think Cryptic Command might start to see at least one. Come on, let's put one in.
Yeah, one doesn't really harm, does it? I mean, it's counter draw or no bounce draw, or tap all their creatures and buys you a turn or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it needs to be included somewhere as a one of or two of, or I think a one of. I mean, obviously you don't want to be getting rid of your Archmage's Charm because
they're
a little bit cheaper and a bit more efficient. But I think Cryptic Command is definitely a one of, is definitely viable. I think.
I tend to agree, especially if you're playing Snapcaster Mage. If you're not playing Snapcaster Mage, I can see the argument to maybe it's time to take the horse behind the barn, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But with Snapcaster Mage, I still like it. It's just, look at it. It's such a perfect card. It does everything.
Yeah, it's pretty epic, mate. This is why I saved it to last, because I had a feeling you'd be on the same wavelength as me.
Yeah. No, I like it. Man, I want to brew up a deck now that we're talking about this deck.
Yeah, you'll be sending me deck lists in a minute.
Right? I actually, right before we went on, I was playing, I like late last night was brewing up a Grixis control deck just for like a video. Just for something fun, right? Nothing serious, but just for content basically. But now I want to go back and play some Azorius.
How do you feel before we end the stream then? How do you feel about Grixis control losing Lurrus then?
Yeah, I know that, and I haven't been paying close attention to Grixis much, just because it's like the little brother of Azorius control, or like Blue Jeskai or whatever. Yeah. Just because the mana base is just always been not great, right? And then like back in the day, you'd want to play like Cruel Ultimatum, which costs like 1 million mana, and it's terrible. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of it losing Lurrus, I mean, it's just overall, I think Lurrus
gets better losing Lurrus, or do you think it gets worse?
Well, I think overall the control community rejoices whenever a card like Lurrus leaves the format. So I think overall it's a net positive.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive for control in general. But I do think Grixis control got better with Lurrus in the companion slot. But the only unfortunate thing is everyone else can play Lurrus. So even though you've got a better deck, you've ended up getting harder matchups. So
I do think though, whenever we get the Grixis Triome, that it'll be worth experimenting, and hopefully we get like some really sweet Grixis control pieces in New Capenna. Like hopefully there's at least one Grixis card that like will be able to potentially slot in there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that is going to be the end of the stream. I just want to say thanks, Alex, for coming on the stream, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. I really enjoy talking about control, and I really appreciate your input, Alex. It's been very good, and I've definitely learned some things about Waffle Tapper, and I need to follow him a little bit more actually, because
he's a god, man. He's the control. He's the OG, man. He's a Hall of Fame, whatever,
He's like the guru, isn't he, of control? But but yeah, I obviously I know who he is, but maybe I need to follow him a bit more and maybe get his suggestions on certain cards and things like that, which is really
the issue with him is he's not really on social media, like at all. He just streams. He does stream, but other than that, he's not really on social media. He's kind of reclusive. So
I think that's a good thing though, because then you're not giving away your deck list. You're not sort of unless you're watching his stream, but you're not giving away anything too much, are you? And that's when you can catch people off guard. Like I said, sometimes playing something a little bit different to what people expect can actually get you in. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm just going to say a big thanks to you, mate. Thanks to the viewers, and I will end the stream. So you take care, and I shall see you soon, guys.
Adios.
Bye-bye.